What's going on, everybody? It's Real with Jordan and Demi. In Los Angeles is Jordan Edwards. In New York, we got Demi Ramos. What's going on, Demi?
Hello.
Demi's got the pink beanie on. Remember when we used to do hat of the day? We haven't done hat of the day in a while, so Demi's bringing back the hat.
Shout out Nardwars, my inspiration for this podcast.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Nardwar is your hat idol. Maybe someday you'll get like the little Scottish golf cap going. Maybe one day as a tribute to Nardwar. Today on the show, we got Andrew McMahon. You may know him from his work with Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, and his band, Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. He's got a new album out, Tilt at the Wind, No More. It's out tomorrow, March 31st. And so we talk about his whole career, going back to Something Corporate, songs like If You See Jordan and Punk Rock Princess. But before we get to Andrew, let's start a new segment, Demi. Let's talk about our new segment is called, I don't know, we don't have a name for it, but I asked Demi, we haven't really done any kind of like, our favorite songs, albums, whatever. So let's do pick of the week. That's what we'll call it. We'll call it pick of the week. So Demi, who is your pick of the week? What's your pick of the week?
Okay, I'm going to be really honest. I discovered a lot. So I lost my Spotify account login a few days ago. And for some reason, when I logged back in, I figured it out. I logged back in and all of the music that I have saved since high school, gone. So I had to start from scratch.
Like your playlist, the ones that you marked.
Yeah. So maybe, I'm not sure why. So, but what came out of that was something really cool, which is now I'm kind of like discovering all of this new music by going on like other people's playlists or just kind of like discover and stuff. So I found recently this song. Actually, this wasn't from this situation, but
I can't wait to hear this. It's been such a buildup.
Well, yeah, but I was actually sent this song by a friend because I'm like redoing my whole music library, and that's a lot. And it is by a German. It's by this like German dude called Steintor Herrenchor, and it's called Louisa. And this shit, let me tell you, like, I don't know what it is about the people in the UK or Eastern Europeans, but there's something really cool about what's going on in music right now in those areas. It's like indie and like a little bit of like, my sister said it sounds like the Cure, but there's this really cool thing where like people right now are pretty much taking a indie drum loop and just, a little simple guitar melody, and it's a vibe. And this is that song. So if you're into that, if you're into like Ecstasy or just kind of like even Current Joys, who we've had on the show, check out Louisa by Steintor, Herrenchor. Boom.
Hold on. Is it actually Ecstasy? I've always said Ecstasy.
I think it's Ecstasy.
Yeah, Ecstasy. Which you will know from TikTok and Reels as the I Walk This Earth Alone song. Yeah, interesting reference. And I did not expect that at all. First of all, thank you for not recommending an MGK song. Just kidding. But yeah, that's you went pretty specific with that recommendation. I am going to recommend my pick of the week is Fire in the City of Automatons. It's an album by the band No Knife, which came out in 1999. Now, we've talked a lot about the resurgence of pop punk and emo and Y2K rock, and No Knife kind of got lost in the shuffle. They started in probably the early to mid 90s. They recorded 3 or 4 albums, I think. And they had dual lead guitar in a lot of their songs, which is really different from a lot of their bands. And one thing I'm complaining about with this new rock resurgence is a lack of riffs and lead guitar parts. And No Knife was really adventurous with the guitar. They weren't as well known as My Chemical Romance. They weren't as beloved as, the Get Up Kids or somebody like that, Saves the Day, that kind of band. But they're worth checking out. Anything else going on, Demi? We good?
It's 11:21 p.m. Jordan and I are out here. We're outside.
Yeah. Jordan and Demi after dark.
Jordan and Demi after dark. So when we have our show, when we take Ellen DeGeneres' studio, in 10 years plus, it's gonna be a late show probably.
Yeah, we're gonna do late night. We're gonna have people making cocktails.
What's your
Anyway,
cocktail of choice, Jordan? Jordan and I have never actually had a cocktail. What's your cocktail of choice?
well, I often order gin and tonics because I do like gin, and it's kind of a safety drink. It's hard to screw up. It's usually pretty boozy. It's refreshing. It's not too heavy, and you know what you're getting no matter what bar you're at. So that's why I go with gin and tonic. What about you?
Dude, mine used to be a margarita because I feel like that's everyone's like starter like cocktail that like is just like
Even at night, because I think of a margarita as being like a daytime party drink, not like a club,
no,
12 p.m. kind of drink,
it's
12
simple.
a.m. drink.
Yeah, it's simple, just like tequila and whatever. But recently, shout out Negronis because a good freaking Negroni, oh, that
It
shit's.
sounds classy. Negronis are classy too.
I mean, I don't know. I just like there's something about it, man. Just like, oh my God, it's my new. Oh yes, shout out.
We'll have to do a Dina Ramos episode where you're drinking cocktails with the guest.
Who? Oh my God, who should we do?
I don't know. We'll figure it out. Who knows? Why don't you drop in the comments who Demi should drink cocktails with in a future episode?
Okay.
All right, let's get to the episode we're talking about now. Here it is, our interview with Andrew McMahon. You do the full zip on your pullover. You do the full zip.
I feel like I look better with the zip here. I don't know if you need to see my overall game right now.
I love the overall game.
Okay.
Demi is known to enjoy a pair of overalls every once
I
in a while.
do. Yes, I have like a few pair of overalls.
Yeah,
I decided that 2023 was going to be my overall year, so I bought a bunch of pairs of overalls.
Yeah, the thing about them is that once you have a pair of overalls, you think they're like your uniform. So you'll just wear something different underneath every day, and then you just walk outside every day with the same pair of overalls.
That's like the name of my game. If I can wear the same thing every day for a week, then I'm a really happy person.
Okay, rock and roll.
So Andrew, let's talk about the upcoming new album. It's
Yeah.
been four or 5 years since you released a new album. So why now? Why? First of all, why the gap between the last two solo albums?
Well, there was this little thing that I got to give Zach, my keyboard player, the credit for coining the term the pandejo. So yeah, there was that.
Pandejo?
Yeah,
Instead of pandemic.
Yeah. So there is that. I was actually working on new music in 2019 and trying to actually release something quickly, and then when everything sort of got put on hold, I shifted gears and I wrote a book instead. So that's kind of how I spent the better part of 2020 and 2021. But then as kind of the lights came back on, it was like, okay, it feels like now's the time. I mean, for me, I need to be in a studio collaborating with people, my peers who are more resourceful than I am. We're doing Zoom sessions and for me, I didn't really want to write that record. I knew that the release was going to kind of be happening right around the time I finally got to say I was, 20 years into a career. Did I lose you guys here?
We're still here. We do.
Oh my God! Okay, just making sure.
I don't. You know what, Andrew? I do this every time. I forget to tell people that we have the one shot.
We get the reaction every time.
Thanks, we're gone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, and I knew that it was, I was turning 40, and I wanted the record to reflect that. I didn't, I write so autobiographically, and I write, about the moment I'm in and pull from the moment I'm in. And the pandemic just did not inspire me in that way. So I did the deep dive on the long form, and I wrote the memoir. And then at the beginning of last year, it was like, I had tunes that were banked from the time before and dug back in, and got after it in the studio at the beginning of last year.
for those of us who have followed you for, your whole career, I hope that one of your songs, an Andrew McMahon song, starts on the piano, that they all start on the piano. Is that true? Please fulfill that fantasy that it starts with you just like at the keyboard, just like, what am I going to write today?
Generally speaking, yeah. I mean, even when I'm working with other producers and writers, I sort of find my voice behind the keys of a piano. So even if we're doing something that sort of, I get excited about a beat or something like that, it really doesn't start coming together until I kind of put my hands on the keys. That's just how it works. And then, and then when I'm working alone, that is just the way it works. I could flip the camera around, but you're in my studio here, and the piano I've sort of worked on since the early days that I think came out with me for the first Warped Tour with Something Corporate is kind of my main go-to for writing.
So you've had the same piano for 20 years, just about.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 uprights from the Something Corporate days. One of them lives in a studio at my friend's house. And then I've got the 2 grands from the Jack's Mannequin era as well that travel with me. But the piano that was really, I mean, it's not the first touring Something Corporate piano, but it's the one that was with us at the beginning with all the stickers on the side and everything like that. That has sort of lived with me, and I wrote everything in transit on that piano, and it's traveled with me from house to house over the last couple of decades.
Nice.
I want to go back to your first band.
Yeah.
Left Here.
You're going.
You went real first band. I was like, what?
If you want to go way back, you can talk about my band that I had in 4th grade called Freedom.
No.
I hope that you'd sang patriotic songs with that band. That was cool.
I was in my Bon Jovi phase, so I had I would wear. We did one performance, so let me be clear. But yeah, I ripped jeans with a bandana tied around my leg and everything. But yeah, Left Here. Yeah, that was the first iteration of Something Corporate that I started really just to play a battle of the bands in high school when I was 15, maybe my sophomore year of high school. And then the rhythm section from that band is what became Something Corporate, which we sort of fired up the following year, and sort of the rest is history from there.
You're like the perfect rocker to ask this question about band names. Whether it's Left,
you had about 7 of them.
You know what I mean? But
I'm the worst guy to ask. I could not be more irritating with my choice of moniker.
Well, how does one pick a band name, and how did you come up with these band names? I mean, they're just do you put all of words in a hat and then take them out and stick them together?
In the case of both Left Here and Something Corporate, it was like a time crunch. So we had done our rehearsals and we had to turn in our application for the Battle of the Bands, and we didn't have a name. And I literally just saw one of those, Left Here signs, the directional signs on the side of the road, and I just put that on the heading. With Something Corporate, we were I think it was a similar thing where we were trying to name the band ahead of getting into a Battle of the Bands in my high school, and I forget it was exactly as dumb as it sounds, which it was we were brainstorming names. And I think I said something like, why don't we come up with something corporate, like a corporate name?
Oh, there you go. Something Corporate.
Ta-da.
There you go. Did you, what happened to the Battle of the Bands? Who won?
We won it, of course.
You won? Okay.
Yeah.
Of course.
We took it all the way to the district-wide Battle of the Bands. I think we won that one. And then I retired from Battle of the Bands, and I actually hosted the Battle of the Bands for the next year at the school.
Yeah, once you win it once, you can't go back again.
Yeah. The funny story is that I almost got expelled for the one that I hosted, not the one that I played in, because I vouched for some fairly degenerate friends who ended up showing up drunk to the performance and cursing the principal from the stage. So that didn't go over so great, but they let me graduate, so that was good.
High school memories.
So were you a degenerate in high school?
I was a low-key degenerate. I figured out ways to, I joined the student government because I realized that they got away with everything. So I sort of did all my troublemaking.
That's a degenerate. He said, "That's corrupt."
I was a politician. Yeah. So,
you were not even president. Don't lie. You're a treasurer.
No, but that's the best part. I was the class representative, which was the one role that you could get in the student government that was not an elected role. So I would work behind the scenes to get the president elected, and then he would appoint me as his representative. So yeah, that was my shtick in high school. So I could ditch class.
Scandal and intrigue.
Yes.
Yeah. I was listening to you released a few songs from the new album already. Mm-hmm. When you put together new songs, do you kind of know which ones are going to fit into your live show? Because that has to be a consideration once you recorded an album. How are you going to fit this in? And do you know which ones? I think that's kind of, no matter how long you've been around, it would give me anxiety not knowing how audiences are going to react to a new song.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of this record is I think it's built for live. I mean, there's a lot of big songs on the record, which, you don't start in that place. I mean, my goal is always just to write and record the best recording, and then let the cream rise, so to speak, and sort of see what people are vibing on. And we're starting to play, we started playing Stars on the summer tour that I went out with Dashboard, and which went over great. And so we this weekend at the festival gig, we did a few new tunes, and I think you just make the record you make, and you hope that people like it enough to want to hear the songs on stage. I mean, that's really my approach.
Speaking of touring, I wanted to talk about the Weezer Panic at the Disco 2016 roundabout. I was just really curious because these, like, you and these two bands, I mean, that's a really strong lineup. Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about, like, was there any like band beef or like info like about the tour?
I mean, honestly, it was a pretty harmonious tour for us. I mean, I have no idea. I think Weezer and Panic got along pretty great too. I don't know. There was a lot of drama.
Pretty laid back. I think Rivers Cuomo's a pretty laid back guy. He just
what kind of personalities? Like, I always wondered about dealing with that.
I mean, I love Rivers and I love the Weezer guys. Rivers is pretty intense and pretty.
He is. He just seems so quiet, like his public persona.
Well, he's a quiet kind of intense. It's funny because I've toured with them. I toured with them in Jack's Mannequin, and it was heartbreaking. It was like my dream. I grew up on those Weezer records, and we finally got our chance with Jack's Mannequin to tour with them. And within, I don't even know how many shows we played, but his bus crashed actually, and they had to cancel the tour. It was really scary.
What?
And then we got the opportunity in I guess was 15 maybe, I forget what summer it was, to go out with both of them. And I toured with Panic as Jack's Mannequin, and we supported their first like arena tour. So this was sort of it was sort of a full circle moment going out to support them both. And for us, it was just like it was really charmed, right? We would play 30 minutes in as the sun was going down, and then get to just like pour a drink and go watch those bands play. And like for me, it was like I would just get to fanboy. I was in the pit from almost every show Weezer on that tour.
Nice.
Okay.
And funny, I mean, like, Rivers and I, we would nod and wave, but like I said, he's kind of an intense dude and he's really focused on his show. And it wasn't until I don't know, a handful of months later that I ended up on a festival with those guys. And I had made the joke because I heard that they had a private plane that was taking them home that night. And so I had sort of joked, we had shared a manager at the time. And I was like, if they need any company on their plane, you just let me know. And my manager kind of tapped me on the shoulder in the middle of the set. And he's like, I got you on the plane.
Hey, let's go.
And so and for the handful of times I talked to Rivers, that was the first time that we really got to do a deep dive, and it was so trippy because I had known him as this quiet dude, and he got in the van to go to the airport, and he was like, Andrew, and I was just like, wait a minute, is this the same dude? And but those guys, I mean, yeah, they've been very kind to me over the course of my career.
As you probably noticed, Andrew, over the last couple of years, pop punk, Y2K rock, whatever you want to call it, making the surge. You did When We Were Young festival last year. How do you feel about all these 19, 20-year-olds running around with power chords and listening to Newfound Glory records and stuff?
Hey man, the wave breaks where it breaks. I think I was surprised. Even, it's funny because Chris and I decided to get together and do that tour last summer. And we, I think we, at that moment, were like, this is kind of novel, but let's do it. And then all of a sudden We Were Young popped up, and then all of these bands kind of got back on the road. And certainly, obviously, with, Olivia Rodrigo and some of the other acts coming out, it was like, holy shit. Like I've been around long enough to watch things come full circle. But admittedly, sorry.
Is that your mom?
No, it's not. Well, I'm good. We're okay here. Thank you. No, is the house cleaner?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think it's exciting. I think some people are doing it better than others, but for me, I mean, I'll admit I'm fairly nostalgic at the moment. Coming into this, having done it more than half my life, and to have this opportunity to get something corporate back together on the We Were Young stage and see some old friends, and we're going to do some dates over the course of the summer with I think with Taking Back Sunday, and there's a couple other things in the works. So I think more so now than I've ever been, I'm really proud of where I came from, and I think it's exciting that people are interested in it again, and I'm just happy to be here and still have a career, and have had 2 bands since those days, and get an excuse to go back and do some more work with them.
Over the years, how much flack have you gotten from people named Jordan coming up to you and being like, come on, man?
Yeah, it's usually it's not with too much anger. Usually they're fans that are just having a laugh, but I have definitely heard that more than a couple times.
Well, on behalf of all Jordans everywhere, we forgive you. I actually, no, Andrew, like, I'm not kidding. 2 or 3 months ago, this wasn't years ago, this was 2 or 3 months ago, I was on a dating app, and some girl responded when I matched with her. She said, I bet Something Corporate doesn't like you, do they? I'm like, this is 2022. Like, are you kidding me? Like, wow. Yeah.
It's a funny thing with that song, because like I didn't really care that much for that song when it was written. It was just kind of like it was just a dig at an old high school friend who had become not a friend.
Cool.
Yeah, and we actually, when we got signed, the whole idea was that Something Corporate would put out an EP first before we kind of did our major label debut. And so in our minds, it was like the way it was presented to us was like, look, this is going to be to get you out on the road. And sort of the thought was like, don't spend all your good songs. So there was another song that we were sandbagging for the full length that was also like a 6/8 time signature rock song. And so we put Jordan on the EP, and then out of nowhere, K-Rock, which was our big hometown station, and also happened to set the bar for a lot of the alternative stations around the country, decided that they thought it was hysterical and started playing it ad nauseum, and it became what it did, with the video and everything. But yeah, it wasn't intended to be my first single, that's for sure.
Was the piano in the video your piano, or was it like a prop piano?
No, that was my piano. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like a stunt piano or something, because you're like all over it. You're like, banging on it and climbing on it and all this kind of stuff.
That's how I treat all my pianos.
Punk rock princess?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, that song was actually a ballad. It was written sort of as this very forlorn love song for a girl that I dated on and off throughout, I don't know, God, my senior year of high school. And
Was she like a punk girl?
She liked punk rock and I didn't, you know, and
that's a fight right there.
Yeah, it was so funny because I took her to see Face to Face and Newfound Glory at one point, and I think it was like after that show, and we were just always like on again, off again, and I used our sort of varied music tastes as a way to describe why our relationship didn't seem like it was ever going to work out, and the irony of it being that within, I don't know, a year, maybe two of writing that song, I was living in Jordan from Newfound Glory's guest room in his house.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, you think about Jordan from Newfound Glory, yeah.
And then I was signed to their label, and
right.
Yeah, it was a kind of a bizarre full circle moment where I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm now in this scene that I didn't fully understand, but it was kind of a beautiful thing, the way that all the pop punk kids and bands adopted something corporate back then.
And how did you feel about the term emo at the time?
Well, I mean, at the time for me, when I was a senior in high school, emo was the Get Up Kids and Jimmy Eat World, and it was sort of like, it's funny that it is kind of it went from being like, in my mind, it was, some of my favorite bands were like emo bands. And certainly I think we felt a little more akin to those bands than punk bands because we weren't really playing punk music. And then it was sort of funny watching it transition into sort of being this stigmatized thing with the black hair and the eyeliner.
Yeah, the Hot Topic kind of thing. Yeah.
And so I think now more than anything, I think it's just funny to see it come full circle. And it's like all of a sudden it's like, it's cool to be emo, and it was just like, it was cool for a minute and then it was like very uncool. And like, for me, I think because I've made it through this weird landscape of, popular music for the last 20 years or so, I've just tried really hard not to call myself anything. If anything, it's like I'm like, I consider myself an alternative artist because I think it's just.
I feel like bands from your era, they just wanted to be called rock bands. They didn't want to be called pop punk. They didn't want to be called emo. They just wanted to be rock bands. And I think it's funny that a lot of these artists now, because I see press releases come across my email box all the time, is bands are labeling themselves pop punk. They're labeling themselves emo, which is kind of interesting.
It's a strange thing, the genreification of music. And I think especially now it's like everything is so blended and merged and sort of across so many disciplines that it, I resist the temptation. But I get if you're in your 20s and that's like, for me, like it was probably the equivalent of listening to, some of the classic rock bands that I came up listening to, and, I can see how, if you're a younger artist and that's what you sort of grew up listening to and you're excited by, why you would, want to classify yourself. I think for a lot of us, it was something we really shied away from because we were kind of fighting to play with the larger acts that were maybe not being pigeonholed.
Right. I want to, you're now, 7-8 years, maybe more removed from Cecilia and the Satellite, and which was such a gorgeous song that you wrote for your daughter, who just turned 9, just on your Instagram. She just turned 9. And I think that must be kind of strange that you wrote this for your daughter when she was very young and now she's older. I think about the song Billy Joel wrote for Alexa.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, such a gorgeous song. Is it Good Night, My Angel? Is that what it is?
There's that one, and then there's Downeaster Alexa. I think I don't know if that one's it,
right.
But yes, yes, I think it's called. I think it's called Lullaby. I could be wrong.
Lullaby. That's right. It's called Lullaby. That's right. Yeah. But it's so strange because you write that when they're so young, and then you see them older, and the song is still there. Yeah. What is that song? How is that song? What does the song mean to you now that she's elementary school age?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, the whole idea, I mean, I wrote most of that song, a month before she was born. And the whole idea was sort of to express like, hey, I've been through these highs and lows in my life. You're going to go through them too. And I'm going to be here for you, as you move through the world. And so I think in that sense, it really holds water to this day, and has been it's a nice thing to share with her still. She still thinks Dad's cool, although that's starting to be called into question, I think. And I'm also working really hard to be the annoying father who tries to embarrass his daughter. But we do still share the music side of things, and there are songs on this record that talk about her, and she actually sang a chorus with me on one of the songs on this record. And so that foundation was laid with the first Wilderness record, with Rainy Girl and with Cecilia and the Satellite. And hopefully she'll still be proud when she hears a song come across on an album that she's referenced in.
I always wondered, because I'm like, I'm grown now, and I think about my relationship with my parents, especially like my dad recently. And what is it like as a father to see, like, knowing how crazy the world is, and especially for women, what is it like to like see, your little girl grow into an actual human? And like, are you worried at all, or are you prepared?
I don't think anything really prepares you. I have close friends whose daughters are starting to, become teenagers and be exposed to this sort of wider world of social media and all of the things that go along with it. And it does scare me, but she's a really level-headed kid. She's, her mother is an incredible example of how to be a, confident and amazing woman in the world. And as much as I worry for her, it's like, the best that we can do as parents is give her the tools. And I think for us, that's about being a good person, and being kind to people. And that's really our baseline. It's like, I just want to know that my daughter's out there looking out for people who are not doing as well as she is, or if there's somebody that isn't treated well in school, that she's the one to step up and be their friend. And I think that's the best I can do. And I'm terrified of when the phone enters her hands.
Oh no!
She's just pre-cell phone, right? She doesn't have a phone yet, does she?
Yeah, we're very, that's something we've like really kept away from her, and her being an only child, I think it makes all that a little bit easier. She doesn't play video games and things like that. She listens to Harry Potter audiobooks and reads and watches
intellectual.
Still watches like Disney TV shows and things like that. So I'm doing my best to keep her in that realm for as long as she allows it, and then we'll see what happens next.
These kids have so many choices to watch things now. There's so many things to watch.
Hulu, Amazon, Netflix.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. We'll get out of here. We'll get you out of here in a second, Andrew. But I want to talk about the tour. Let's close out with the tour. You're touring on this album. What can you tell us about what does your band look like? Have you had the same since the In the Wilderness era?
Yeah.
Have you had kind of the same bands?
Yeah. So, my stage is pretty much populated by all the guys that I've been playing with forever. So, even the Wilderness was my rhythm section from Jack's Mannequin, and Bobby, who played with me in Something Corporate and Jack's Mannequin, has been back in the band since 2019. So, and Zach, who has played keyboards with me since the first iteration of my solo thing, when we put out the first EP with Synesthesia on it, is playing with us. So it's like, it's 5 just ringers, amazing musicians and guys who, we've been speaking the language of music to each other for, gosh, Bobby and Jay, we've been playing together since 2003, 2004. So yeah, they're the real deal and a force to be reckoned with for sure.
Yeah, it's great to have this.
What about the Dear Jack Foundation?
So, for those who don't know, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a leukemia survivor. I was diagnosed and treated and recovered all sort of in the early years of Jack's Mannequin. And in that period of time, there was a real amazing outpouring of love from fans who wanted to donate money to the charities that we sort of deemed our go-tos. And eventually, there was just enough there as I got better that we started Dear Jack Foundation, really to sort of fill the gap for adolescents and young adults who face cancer. So there's, it's getting better. But at the time that we began, there really weren't programs for young people who were in treatment and who were recovering. There were few and far between. So we have a wish granting program called the Life List that we work with people who are in treatment, patients that are in treatment and their families to develop just a list of whether they be wishes or just highlights, things that we want to put on the horizon throughout their treatment so that they have things to look forward to. And then we also work with young survivors and their partners as they enter remission to get them back on a good footing. So we host retreats for couples who are kind of re-entering the world post-cancer, which was a very tricky time for my wife and I, and we kind of wanted to make that path a little bit easier for the people that we could help out there.
Yeah, that's one thing people don't think about is the afterwards, and not just the physical, but the mental recovery of having gone through all that.
Yeah, there's a lot of, obviously the stigma around mental health is the bar has come way down, and I think people are way more open to it. But, I'm a huge advocate for therapy and a huge advocate for patients who are transitioning to survivorship, to realize a lot of people will want you to tell them that every day is a gift and you have this sunny disposition because you survived something. And really it's a huge trauma that requires a lot of attention to deal with in a healthful way. And it's a big mission of Dear Jack to shine a light on that, to take the stigma away from that and let young people know that it's okay not to be having easy days, even though you've survived, and to try and, get them on a healthy footing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Andrew. We really appreciate it. Congrats on the new album and good luck on the tour. And we hope to see you when you come to Southern California.
Yeah, I'm here right now. Are you enjoying this cold weather or what?
Hey, it's better today than it was yesterday. It's better today than it was yesterday.
It's sunny at least. I'll give it that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good day, you guys. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Wowza.
That was Andrew McMahon from 3 or 4 of your favorite bands.
Dead.
I always think that it's such a sign of success that he's had hit songs with 3 different bands. Because a lot of times a band will break up and the lead singer starts a new band and it's okay, but it's not great, but he's kept it going across 3 bands now. So something that
your favorite, Jordan?
Well, of course, something corporate, old school guy, but I really like one of my favorite songs. I thought one thing that Demi, we do on the show, we have people who have had 20, 30 years of songs is it's really tempting just to be like, tell us about this song, tell us about that song. How'd you, and so I didn't want to ask him about one of my favorite something corporate songs is Me and the Moon. I didn't get to that one, but I encourage anyone, it's on their second album. The second something corporate album, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, first of all, I just love piano based rock, like anything Billy Joel, Elton John, Ben Folds.
Jordan, we're matching today. I just realized we got the black t-shirt today.
It's navy.
Not even planned.
Navy. It's just navy. Sorry.
By the way, just putting this out there. He's written with K-Flay, who we've also had on the show.
Yeah, we could have
really interesting.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things we didn't get to. He also wrote songs for the TV show Smash, like musical theater songs. So he has and I wanted to ask him, but we didn't really get to it, about if he would write a Broadway musical someday, or if he has interest in that, because I think anyone who writes songs on piano and also incorporates characters, like he writes about characters, I think that's prime, like musical theater you know.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like that some of your favorite artists are out there making songs together and you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we could there was like two directions we could have gone with that interview. Is we could have gone straight up, just, shooting the breeze and talking about old songs, or we could have just done strictly the new music. And I think we kind of did both, but he also, works with really high end producers on this stuff. Anyway, I feel like I've been talking a lot. I feel like I'm really over caffeinated. You're usually the over caffeinated one, but today it's me.
My caffeine's ran out a little bit. I've been running around, Jordan. It's literally like it was like slush. Those like New York City slush rain snow days. I was running
where the ground is just covered in that ugly
so,
gray.
Like fall like every 5 steps. So that's that. So it's not that bad. You're in California with that.
When are you coming back to California, Demi?
April. Oh, Jordan. Oh wait, are we still?
We're still recording. Yeah. You want to do a band meeting in a second when we're in the show and do a band meeting?
Actually, we've started a band. If anyone's wondering about what other things we have going on, we started a band, and
it's a prog band. I'm playing a vintage synthesizer with 4 different keyboards. I'm wearing a cape, and we sing about dragons and mythical beasts and quests. Theatrical prog rock. Think Genesis meets Tenacious D. That's kind of what we're going for.
Shades on drums.
Yeah. Look forward to the debut EP this summer. And we'll be opening for who will be opening for?
Upsall.
Perfect match. She doesn't know it yet, but we will be opening for Upsall.
She doesn't know yet.
Okay, I feel like it's going downhill. We're out of steam. We're out of steam. Let's get it going. That's in this. That's it for us. Go to popdust.com for the latest in pop culture and music news, and to see my features and interviews with Demi, where she interviews people on in person, and photographs that I've taken of musicians here in LA. Go to popdust.com for all that. And of course, go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts to listen to this version. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook right now, follow me on Instagram at Jordan Edwards Studio and Demi at Demi_Ramos, and follow us on TikTok. And it's the full thing. It's real with Jordan Demi is the full TikTok.
Not even any numbers.
Not even any numbers. We got the full 14-letter name on TikTok. So you can go follow us on that. Until next time, we'll see you later.